My name is Dr. Patrick Penfield. I'm a professor of practice at the Whitman School of Management, Syracuse University, and my expertise is supply chain management. A lot of it started when the pandemic happened, and so that's when we really started to see things climb. And it's just not the pandemic. We've got climate change issues, we've got diseases, within the food supply chain, and then we've got other anomalies that have been happening that it's just been impacting everything overall. And that's really the gist of it. And so in 2022, we really saw inflation really take off. 2023, it seems like things are going to start to come down. I think what's happening is, we're starting to see things, turn. Like this was in February, we saw it at 6%. So my thinking is probably where we'll start to see it drop even more is going to be probably the third, fourth quarter. That's when I think it'll probably get to that 3% level, between 3 and 4%. Again, that's if all things are equal and there's no other issues and no geopolitical wars or anything of that nature. So if everything stays the way it is, we're not having the COVID situations anymore. I truly believe that that's what's going to happen. I think we'll probably see a couple more Fed increases within the next 6 months. And I think it's all, again, they're trying to tamp down inflation. And so one way that you can do that is by raising interest rates. The problem we have, though, when you raise interest rates is that it kind of stops people from buying stuff. So your credit card bill goes up. Any major purchases like a house or a car, people are a little apprehensive to buy because interest rates are so high. And the other thing is you get less for your money. So again, if I'm going to go out and buy a house, it may not be the same house I saw, 2 years ago, just because of, what's happening with interest rates. And they really have started to climb. So the other dilemma we have when interest rates go up like this is that demand starts to slow down. And so, we are seeing demand slow down. So in the supply chain, a lot of times we see things before economists will see things. We see patterns and we see things happening. And so one example is we're starting to see more people in warehouses be laid off in trucking. And so that's highly unusual because trucking, we've had a lot of issues with just trying to get truck drivers and, being able to do that. So when truck companies are laying off truck drivers, that's a cause of concern for me, because then that means to me that, things aren't moving and things aren't shipping. And so demand is starting to slow down. Nowhere in the history of the United States have we had the Fed increase interest rates the way they are and come to a soft landing. So my expectation is absolutely we will be going into a recession probably later in the year, maybe the beginning of 2024. But it's eventually going to happen, and that's just because the interest rates, as they keep going up, people are less apt to buy. It's not only people, it's companies. So companies have, a difficult time, getting money also. And a lot of times they'll postpone projects. So usually when this happens, a recession will occur. My hope is if there is a recession, it'll be a short-term one where it won't drag out for long. It depends on what industry, So, if it's a commodity-based industry, where, it's gas, gas prices are gas prices. So that's the dilemma is that, a lot of times companies will pass that through as long as if there's an increase. Yeah, I think for the most parts, there is like if you're in food products and stuff like that, if you raise your cost too much, then people are more apt to do something else with their money, buy something else, and so that's the danger when you raise prices. But the past 2 years, that's kind of what we've seen is that every link within the supply chain has raised prices, and so that's the dilemma when fuel prices go up, when labor goes up, when the cost of ingredients go up. It's really difficult to make money. And so you're kind of left to raising prices. And that's kind of what we've seen in the past year and a half. So yeah, there are things that companies can do, and they do. They try to keep their costs low. But I think this is on paramount. We've never really seen anything like this before, where we've seen all these price increases throughout the supply chain. And that's why, the consumer's getting hit with all these, this cost that's gone up. It's kind of tricking the consumer a little bit too. So this is one way. If I can change my packaging, make it a little smaller, still charge you the same price, you're not going to be upset, because a lot of us, unfortunately, we don't look at the sizes. Like I don't, and I kind of I always buy my box of cookies, and I've never really looked at how many ounces. In my mind, I might be thinking, well, maybe my family's eating more of my cookies because they seem to go faster. So you're like, it just seems like everything. it's going faster. So unfortunately, especially with food, the consumer goods folks, the folks that make your packaged foods, yeah, they've been doing a lot of this, which is just crazy. So yeah, I dislike it. I don't think it's fair. I know why they're doing it, because it's easier to shrink the package size versus increase the price. So you and I will be upset if our package of Oreos went up, but if it's less, we may not notice much. And so that's usually the premise behind why this shrinkflation has been happening. I think, one of the things that I probably would do is, again, look for the deals. I think food prices, that's the interesting thing with food. Food, it's not really, there's not a demand pattern with food. Food is a constant, right? We all have to eat, so that's the dilemma. So that's why the price drops haven't happened. But I think if I were the consumer, I am a consumer, one of the things that you have to do is shop around and look, right? And look to see where the best deals are. And I think, food prices will start to come down somewhat. The issue, with eggs was the avian flu, right? So 10% of hens, were killed or destroyed because of the avian flu. And that's, a part of the reason why egg prices went up. Fertilizer or labor, like I talked about earlier, that impacted the egg farmers. And so that's why egg prices have gone up so much. But egg prices are starting to come down. I think the nice thing is that, we've got the summer coming. So fruits and vegetables, especially in your particular regions, will come down in price also. So, I think it's just about a question of shopping and looking for the best opportunities. I think the one thing I would be concerned about is interest rates. So if I'm a consumer, I'd look at your credit cards, see if you can switch to lower interest rates if you have to have a credit card or have to use credit cards. Try maybe to look at maybe postponing big purchases, especially if interest rates are really high. It's difficult, when you have a big car payment and a big house payment, especially in the time. But I eventually think things will come down. I think with interest rates, maybe in 2024, middle of 2024, we'll start to see them hopefully start to come down. And again, if you don't have to make any big purchases right now, that's something that you may want to consider, especially with interest rates being high. But I think with the summer months coming, I think the food supply looks very strong. And my hope is that, prices will start to drop, especially because, we're starting to see some better things happening in the horizon. And so if that occurs, then we'll hopefully be in good shape from a food standpoint.
Shrinkflation is something that really upsets a lot of people, a lot of consumers. It is basically a packaging strategy, allowing manufacturers to reduce quantities while charging you and I the same price. And we've seen shrinkflation impact most food categories. It's mostly outside of fresh, so packaged goods, non-perishables have been impacted by shrinkflation, and it's been around for decades. But every time commodity prices go up or input costs, manufacturers tend to actually use shrinkflation as a strategy not to lose market share.